Hi guys, welcome back to the Astro Imaging channel. Tonight's session is A Loaf of Bread, A Jug of Milk, and PixInsight by Alex McConahay. This will be the LRGB version. In the past he did a different version, which I believe was with DSLR data. This one will be the LRGB version. The last one's great for DSLR data, and you can go check that out. But before I do that, I had a request. Please explain this chat and Q&A and all this stuff that I talk about before the sessions, what it means and how you guys communicate with us. So I am going to kind of go through that, and I'm going to hopefully show you my screen. Just bear with me for 1 second. Takes a few clicks here. All right, so you are seeing my screen now. And so this is our Google Plus page. If you have a Google Plus account, you want to get to our page. And the way you get to our page, this is the best way I could find it. Type in the Astro Imaging channel, and then it should pop up there, even if you misspell it. And you're going to go there, and it's going to bring up all your options, and you're going to click this, and it brings you to our page here. If you, if I wasn't on the Astro Imaging channel thing right here, you'd be able to follow us right here. And if you follow us, then what happens is you get notifications of all of our events, and they pop up in your window up here on the right. And when you get those notifications, you can RSVP, as I say, and if you click yes, it'll continue to notify you when the event is a day away, and then when the event is just starting. And then if you go onto Google Plus, you'll be able to get right into the event by clicking that. If you, and I am hoping right now that, let's see here, I'm hoping right now that I don't hear myself. If you click the event, you click right here, you're in. And the way you communicate with us is via Q&A, and you should see that inside there. You should just be able to type it in and get to us. When I talk about chat, that's mostly for the people in this live room in regards to Google+. To get into the live room, it's mostly by invitation only, but if you have something you want to add to a particular conversation, or if a manufacturer's on and you really want to ask them something about some particular product you're interested in, let me know in advance and I will get you in there. And let me know in advance. Well, how the heck do you let me know in advance on Google+? And I'm going to go back out to here, and basically this is Google Plus's version of a private message. You're going to say, hey, you know, and you type that in there, and right here you're only going to send it to, oops, misspelled the Astro Imaging channel, the Astro, and if it wasn't me, you'd be able to send it to me. You type in the Astro Imaging channel, and you type in hey, and you share it, and basically you're only sharing that post with me, so that's their version of a private message. You can get me that way if you're on Google+, and if you're familiar with Google+. The other, so that is basically if you wanted to get into these live things and see them Sunday at 9:30. You're so interested in what we have to say that you've got to catch it right off the, fresh off the press. And you're actually getting it live if you do that. This is another way that you can get us live. Well, basically, if you go to the YouTube and you go to the Astro Imaging channel, you will see our, this is basically our channel right here. And you click this, and you can do a couple things here. First of all, if you want to be notified of any videos that are posted, you can subscribe, and then you'll automatically be notified, I think in your email. I don't know if it's weekly or daily or whatever it is, but you get your notifications. The other thing you can do is, during a live session, you can click it and you can see it via the YouTube side. And something I recently discovered, and I'm going to see, oh, I've got to pause that. Chat is disabled for this live stream. I was hoping that was enabled because I wanted to check this out. Because I thought, oh wow, maybe they're chatting, maybe they're saying stuff behind my back. But either way, This is the other way to find us. But the way that we're hoping that you all are going to come around and find us is going to be via our new website, and we're hoping to get a few new modules into here where we can get chat on here that we can look at and check over. But basically, if we go to our website right here, you're seeing this live session. You click play and you're watching the live session. This is on our website right now, theastroimagingchannel.com. If you need to contact me, contact us. All of our past images of the week are on here. All of our live shows are on here. And a still being populated, but mostly there, directory, where if you're looking for a particular show and you only remember a few things about it, I remember it was about scientific imaging. Well, let's click that scientific imaging. Well, there you go. Robert Stevens will present. And you should be able to, oh, wow, you can't click that. I'm going to find out why. You should be able to click that. You want to get rid of that. So basically, it's via keywords. So from this point on, I'm basically going to refer you to our website, but you will still be able to get everything the way you used to if you're on Google+. And I do want to remind you, it's all about the questions. So we're doing all this because we want you to be able to ask your questions freely, and keep that in mind during Alex's presentation. And let me see, have I covered everything? I think I've covered everything. So what I'm going to jump right in. Oh, and one more thing. If you find that you've won our image of the week, you need to get onto Google Plus and follow us. That way I can send you the invite for this session so you can get in. You're going to have a week's notice now. And unfortunately, last week's winner never was able to subscribe to us, or for whatever reason never subscribed to us, so I was not able to identify him on Google+. That's how it is. I just can't figure out who you are on Google+. But this week's Image of the Week winner and goes to Bill McLaughlin, and Bill McLaughlin will be invited on next week. Bill, you'll get a notification. You're already subscribed, so you're set. And you're welcome to jump on, tell us a little bit about this image. But basically, let's see, Vandenberg 133 and SH2 106. Great mix of emission and reflection nebula. Bill, come on next week to chat about it. And wow, that was a lot of stuff right there. But I think I'm done. Basically, all I'm going to do is hand it over to Alex and remind you guys that we'd love for you to ask some questions in Q&A. Alex, you there?
I'm there. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay. This is the first page of a tutorial that I've developed over the last few months. Follow-up, as Adam pointed out, to our other one we did on one-shot color processing. It's the same idea behind it. And just to give you a little history of where it came from, my wife and I were just relaxing one day and reading love poems to each other. And one of our favorites was from the Rubaiyat of Khayyam, of course. And she read to me a book of verses underneath the bough, a jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and thou. Beside me singing in the wilderness, O wilderness, we're paradise now. And this, looking in her eyes and knowing how we felt sitting there just as the sun was setting, I realized that simplification, just the two of us there, just simplifying things would be so much nicer. And then I applied it to my real life. And my real life is like this. It's got like lots of stuff in it. It's got icons across the top. Oops, back down you go. There you go. It's got icons. It's got a processing console. It's got all sorts of gobbledygook here that's just impossible to understand. So I turned to my wife and I said, I know what you're saying, honey. I've got it. I've got the message. All that complexity reminded me of the time I first got my new car, and I'm looking at the owner's manual, and there's like 1,000 billion switches and buttons and gauges and things that I could screw up. And really, all she was asking me to do was, go down to the store and buy a loaf of bread, get a jug of milk or something. Now, I should say that the stories I just told were kind of made up. All right, and I'll stop telling stories, and I'll just get back to what I'm supposed to be doing here. Specifically, if you want to find a copy of the tutorial that I'm going to talk about right now, you go to my website under the article section there, and it's called PixInsight and a Loaf of Bread LRGB. If you're a one-shot color guy, you can go back, or girl, you go back to PixInsight and a Loaf of Bread one-shot color edition of it, and you can download this. It's about 30 pages, 30-some pages long, so, you know, enjoy it. It's really wordy because I made it a point to be really wordy. I wanted to explain everything and give you a lot of detail about where you find the particular button you're going to press and all that other stuff. I had some goals in mind when I wrote this stuff. I wanted somebody to be able to use PixInsight just as it comes, straight down, without any alterations or anything else like that. You don't have to add things to it. I wanted to use the processes that would get us stuff, get the most done for what we could. I wanted to tell you guys about the processes that could most easily be explained. Not necessarily the best processes for doing anything, but the processes that could be most easily explained. I didn't want to have to do a lot of experimenting. I didn't want you to have to change a lot of defaults. The defaults are good, but they're not great for a lot of processes that have to go on. So I wanted to use parts of the program that had defaults that were pretty good in the first place. I wanted to teach as much about the interface as possible. I wanted you to learn the language of PixInsight, the feel, the look of PixInsight as we were going through these different processes. My goal was not to help you just develop the picture, but give you the basic tools so that later on you can come back and with virtually any PixInsight things that had to be done, you could fake it. You could call up a process you've never seen before and do that. I also wanted to be in the position where I wouldn't be saying, wouldn't be trying to handle every single problem out there. I'm going to be using a nice simple galaxies for tonight's explanations. And galaxies, when they're just galaxies all by themselves, are pretty easy to process. They don't have a lot of nebulosity. They don't have a lot of brightness range like M42 might. And so they're simply going to be easier to process. So I also wanted to be very detailed about the user interface. For instance, process, all processes, LRGB combination. You could have figured out before too long. I could have just said, go to the menu and get LRGB combination. If I say designate which image is to be assigned to which channel by clicking at the box at the end of the file, I could have just said designate them, is what comes off a lot. But I tell you where to designate it. I tell you what will happen. I give you a little picture of the icons that I'm expecting you to push, as well as describe it in the text itself. There's about 30 pages of this. It gets very detailed after a while, kind of boring, and there's some real stupid jokes in it, so enjoy it. Some of the assumptions, I figure you already know how to use Windows and the file manager there, and so that. I figure you have some images. About a dozen LRGB would be great. You can also use this tutorial for just RGB or narrowband by just changing what you're thinking stuff. If you've got you need at least 8 images in LRGB in order to get the real good algorithms to kick in for noise rejection and things like that. And you have to have at least 3 in order to get it to work in the first place, because it won't stack less than 3 in the basic pre-processing script. But if you can get a dozen, that's cool. You're probably going to reduce your noise and everything. So take 15, 18, depending on how many you have to throw out, so that when you've thrown out the ones that are junky, you've still got about a dozen LRGB, or you can skip the L, or you can even use this whole thing with narrowband. It'd be good to have a set of flats, darks, and biases. A dozen of each would be good. Flat darks, according to the program documentation, are not exactly necessary. You should be able to get by with taking the same darks, but usually these darks may be 600 seconds long or 300 seconds long, and your flats may only be 3 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And sometimes the program has difficulty matching up your regular darks with your flats. You don't, however, need, if you've taken some at 300, some exposures at 300, and some exposures at 600, you don't need a bunch of different darks at each of those different speeds. The program itself can most of the time make up and pick out which darks it should be using. We're going to use the defaults in PixInsight as much as possible. RGB, narrowband, okay, let's say that you don't have a luminance filter, you haven't taken any luminance exposures for this. That's fine. Just go ahead and use this procedure that you've got in this tutorial. You just need to use common sense. If I say, okay, now we're going to combine L, R, G, and B, well, in your case, you're not. You're just going to be combining R, G, and B. And as far as narrowband goes, of course, you have to decide which color is going to be matched to which filter. Can you use this tutorial for one-shot color? You can use parts of it. There's a different YouTube tutorial. Here's the link to it. And there's a different printed tutorial. You can go to my webpage under the article section, and you can find it there. What you lose when you do the way that I'm about to suggest is you lose some convenience. I'm not going to tell you about all the shortcuts you could be using. I'm not going to be telling you about all the icons you can be using and some of those things. You're going to be losing lots of control. There's a process, for instance, called automatic background extraction that you just push a button and it goes out and does what it's supposed to be doing, essentially. That's not quite as good as if you place the control points and so forth so that you can control, make sure that it gets selects the right background sky and things like that. And that goes for so many different processes that I'm about to talk about. I'm going to tell you how to be doing automatic things that aren't necessarily the best way to do it. I'm also going to be you're also going to miss some opportunities. There are lots of really important functions that goes on with PixInsight, a lot of processes that you could use that I'm not going to talk about because they're too hard to explain. They require too much experimentation to figure out just how to get them just right. Once you've got the confidence and the basic skills you get from going all the way through this tutorial, you can learn those other things a whole lot easier. And this is a big controversy, and it was one of the things I was having difficulty with for a long time in just writing this tutorial. I think that you get a much better product when you do your L and process it to a certain point, and your RGB, your color information, and process it to a certain point, and then you combine it. And that is the way it's recommended that you do it according to the PixInsight pros. We're not going to do that. We're going to take an easier route, and just be aware of that as we go along. At various points last time when we were doing this on the one-shot color thing, people would ask me, isn't there a better way to do this? And hey, don't you lose out when you're doing that? And the answer is almost always going to be yes. There is a better way to do what I just described. You're just going to have to, we're just doing it this way because it's easier to explain. This is a shot processed with the same data using the automatic process that I'm going to show you tonight. This is that same data processed with the more thoughtful presentation, taking very good care of how to apply the processes, picking more processes than I used. I am not a very good image processor, and I mean, even I can get something better out of it than that. So here's what you're going to get if you just follow the instructions I'll give you tonight. And here's what you might be able to get if you become a mediocre processor like I am. Okay, and you can see there's a whole lot more detail, color, stars are smaller, and all that cool stuff. So pay attention to that. You are giving up something by following this beginner's tutorial. Don't do it forever. Yeah, it's cool to ride around on training wheels when you're 4 years old. It's not so cool when you're 4.5. So think that out, okay? I want to thank the guy that came over to my house one day. The real story of how this developed was that there was a guy that wanted to learn PixInsight, but he kept getting put off by all the intricacies of the interface. And he says, Alex, you got to help me, dude. And I said, come on over to my house, bring your data, and we'll figure out what we can do. And it was during that session that I realized that we are making this PixInsight thing way more complicated than it needs to be. Let's strip it down to its basic, just get back down to the very things that we absolutely need in order to get a picture, and let's see what we can get out of it. And that's what I've done for you in these 30-some pages. The guys on the Astro Imaging channel have been arguing with me back and forth and wondering when the heck I would get finished with this project, and so that I could have this show tonight. And David Alt, Josh Smith, Adam Jaffe, and Eric Coles all contributed partway on this, made some suggestions to improve things, make it easier. Warren Keller, I always have to thank him. Were it not for Warren and his action items, I would not be able to process in PixInsight at all. Harry's Astro Shed, he's just a great guy. If you don't know about him, you got to learn about him. That's where you get a lot of this stuff, both Warren and Harry's tutorials. And of course, you can use the PixInsight resources, but you'll notice that it is kind of last on my list. The PixInsight resources are not exactly where they should be. This is the workflow we're going to follow tonight. We're going to use the blink process to select the good shots. Then we're going to do the batch preprocessing script. We're going to clean up the data a little bit, balance some color channels, combine everything into one picture, and we're going to take that picture, clean it up again. We're going to do some processing by going nonlinear, doing some stretching, some saturation. Maybe we'll do a little noise reduction, and then we're going to save it all and clean it up. And then I'm going to show you how to save the originals and save it for the web. Well, with that in mind, have we developed ourselves any questions yet, Adam?
None yet.
Okay, then I'm going to start PixInsight Core by going over here to PixInsight, and it started up very quickly. One of the assumptions you remember was that I said that we would have only the defaults. If you've been messing with PixInsight and have kind of lost some of the things that should be over here and your icons are no longer the way they should be, you can go ahead and use that if you want. But if you want a clean install so that you're following exactly the way the tutorial was written, you might want to press, is it Control? Yeah, Control as you start PixInsight, and you will lose whatever configurations you had, but it'll come back up this way. And frankly, I can't wait until this whole project, this tutorial session is over tonight, because I'll get to turn it back to the way I really use it, which isn't what it looks like right now. The first thing we've got to do is the blink process. So I'm going to come over here to Process, All Processes, Blink. The reason we want to do this is we want to see what kind of data we got out there. I'm going to come over to the first icon here. This is the Add Image Files icon. And I'm going to go over to my data file. My data file's got lights in it. And as I'm looking at my lights, I've got, well, these are all the lights I've got. So I'm going to go here. This is my first luminance light. I don't like this view, so I'm going to change this view down to Details. Make it big enough for me to see. There we go. Here are all my luminance shots. From here, I click on the first one. I come down to the bottom one and Shift-click to select them all. And I say, open those suckers up. And up they open. Here is the process console, and it's telling me what's happening. And you'll notice that I've added all these pictures to my set of files over here. Okay? And all I want to do right now is find out if I've got good files or bad files. So we look at our first file here, and you may not be able to pick it up, but it's kind of noisy, a lot of specs on it and stuff like that, which are kind of ugly, but that's okay. Oh, the first thing I want to do, I should say, is hit this little button right here. This little this thing with the orange histogram over here applies an automatic histogram transformation to all the pictures so that they all come out at about the same brightness. So it does that. And now I go and I click on each of these in order. And my little mount was behaving well that night, and everything was cool. So you'll notice that some of them are back and forth from each other. Doesn't matter. I did a meridian flip, and so they're mirror images of each other. Let's say, though, that this one was poopy. It was ugly. It was streaked, and there's all sorts of things wrong with it. It fell out of focus and stuff like that, and I don't want it. Well, I'm going to come down here, and it's highlighted in orange because I'm looking at it right now, and I'm going to go to this. I'm going to close the selected image. Boom. And as I was going by, I noticed that this one was poopy. It was streaked and out of focus. I don't want it in my collection, so I'm going to close it. Now I've got all these images left. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, did I really select the right ones? Do all the others look good? Do they look balanced? Yeah, that's fine. So then I'm going to go up, I'm going to click on the top one and click on the bottom one so that they're all oranged up. They're all highlighted. And then I've got, what do I always tell you to do? I think you're supposed to move them. I don't necessarily do this, so I have to go back to what I've told you to do. Move the select files to a new location. You'll notice it's a little blue arrow pointing to a yellow file folder. And then I come back here. It's going back to the last time I actually did this, but I'm not using that right now. So I go back. I've got to navigate down to which drive is holding my information. It's in LRGB demo PixInsight. I've actually made up a set of files for tonight's demonstration because we just don't have time to do it the right way. Okay, I'm going to add a new folder here. So I'm going to right-click there. I'm going to add a new folder, and this is going to be goods. I think I called them. Yeah, I think I called them good or something. Selected, that's what I called it. Here we go, selected. I'm trying to match what I said in the tutorial, and I don't necessarily do what I did in the tutorial. So, okay, I'm telling it, okay, select the folder down here in the lower right-hand corner. Select the folder, and all of these things are now moved over to that folder. So I'm going to close them all because I don't need them anymore. And you see where it says close all images down here? Close them. Now I'm going to proceed to do the same thing to my other blues and my greens and my reds, but I'm not going to tell you that right now just in the interest of time. Let me go down and show you what those files. Oh, I know how to do that easier. Hang on for a second. If we go back to the to the lights folder, this is where we were just now. You'll notice that my luminance folders, or my luminance files are gone, except for those two that I rejected. Remember the two I rejected? Okay, so they're not there anymore. These others all have to be moved over to the other folder. So far I've done the blink process. It's a good time for questions. Are there any questions? Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to calibration and pre-processing. And in order to go to calibration and pre-processing, we're going to go to, there's a script under batch processing called batch pre-processing. We call that script up, and you'll notice across the bottom there's a set of plus marks. It says to add various kinds of files. Well, we're going to add lights. And we're going to then maneuver over to the selected folder, and you notice those lights that the luminances that I said should be here. I'm going to click on the first and shift click on the last, tell them to open them, and they pop in here. Now remember, I didn't go through the blink process with all the others, so I'm going to add them by going back to their folder. You should have, and they should have been over and selected, but under lights I'm going to pick them all and bring them in there, and I'm going to open them all up and pop. They all showed up over here. Now I'm going to go to add bias, and over under data I've got all my, actually yes, I suppose I should do that because that's what it says to do. There's an easier way to do this, but I'm going to keep it my secret. Where's bias? There we go. Let me change the view here. Okay, I'm adding bias, right? So I'm going to click on my first bias, go down to my last bias, and I'm going to open them. And now I'm going to add my darks, and I'm going to find my first dark, which is right here. And I'm going to go down to my last dark, which is right there, and I'm going to open them. Where are my flats? And I'm going to go find my flats. There's some more biases. Did I get those already? Flats. I'll check that in a minute. Go down to my flats, and here we got flat blue, flat green, flat luminance, flat red. They come in different binnings, I think, but I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to open them. Pop. Now I'm going to come back, and I'm going to check. Here's my biases. Here's my darks. Here's my flats. Here's my lights. As I skim through on each of these, you can see that I've got 12 of those, like I said I should. I've got, it looks like about 10 of these, okay. But I've only got 6 or 8 of these and 6 or 8 of those. I'd really rather have 12, and on some of my other files I usually do. You can see that it's okay. Now, as I was going through the blink process, I noticed that this first image here was a very sharp image, so I'm going to use it as my registration reference image, and I pick it by just double-clicking on it, and up it comes down here. Now for my output directory, which I have to fill out, I come down here. This is my LRGB demo for PixInsight under data. Okay, actually I want to be all the way up here, and I'm going to make a new folder. That new folder is going to be called process. So I select this folder by clicking down in the lower right hand corner, and so now it knows to go to LRGB PixInsight process. That's the name of the file. Okay. I said okay, and now I'm going to check to see. Oh, first I'm going to check. It's not a one-shot color image, so I'm not going to check CFA images. I'm going to ask it to optimize the dark frame, generate the rejection maps. All those are checked. I'm not using a master bias, dark or flat. Okay, and then so I'm going to say, did I do all that right? And it's going to say, no, you didn't, dummy. You don't have enough greens in order to do a Windsorized Sigma clipping. And you don't have enough reds to do a Windsorized Sigma clipping. So I'm going to say, okay, let me go back and fix that. And the only way to fix that is under image integration, is to change the integration parameters from Windsor Sigma to what they suggest is percentile clipping. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going, okay, I'll do that. Now I'll check my diagnostics, and look, now I've got a problem with my light frames, my luminance, and my blue, because they did have more than 8. Now, how do I resolve that dilemma? In my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the luminance happy. So in order to make the luminance happy, I'm going to go back and change this back to Windsorized Sigma clipping, which is the preferred method most of the time. All right, now I'm running my diagnostics again. It says, hey, dummy, you still got that same problem you used to have. And I'll go, yeah, I know. There are some things that you can't go, yeah, I know. And they'll tell you about it. If you only have, if you have less than 3 frames, for instance, if you haven't specified your output directory, and if you haven't specified your registration reference image, you got a problem. But otherwise, you're okay. Let me close that down. And I can tell it to run, and it'll say, hey, dummy, you still got those problems. And I'll go, yeah, I know. Continue. And then it'll give me this nasty message that says I'm a lazy butt because I'm not working hard enough and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'll say, oh, no, please understand me. I'm a newbie. I can do this. And I'm going to press continue, and then for the next hour or so, I'm going to watch all this junk go by. Only the real nerdies watch that stuff, so you don't actually have to read the process console as it's doing its job. I aborted that run because I don't have that many jokes for fill up a whole hour. All right, so I'm going to abort this process, and then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to exit the program. Do you really want to exit? Yes. Okay. So far what I've done is I've selected my good stuff and I've calibrated them and pre-processed them. It went off and did its job. I'm going to close the process console window by clicking in this X up here. And what I want to do is clean up my master pictures that I just found, that I just got. So I'm going to go over here and File, Open. And now you won't have this one that says Prepared Process. I cheated and put all this stuff in here today so that we'd have something to talk about today. I'm going to have 3 files here, calibrated, master, and registered. These contain the calibrated, and then they went and registered them so that if you wanted to go do something of your own after using part of the batch preprocessing, but not other parts of it, you could do that. But frankly, we're into the master. And when I pull up the master, you'll notice that I have as many as 12 files across here, depending on how many darks or what type of darks, what binning I had and stuff like that. I'm particularly interested in, let me change this to detail again, make it bigger so you can see the full titles. I'm particularly interested in the lights. Okay, so I'm going to click on the first light and the last light, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to tell them to open. Oh, click and then shift click on the last one. Now notice I'm getting a whole lot more than 4 files here. That's because for every color plane, or for every filter plane I did, I got 3 pictures. The first is a rejection. The second one's a rejection. This one is a rejection of all the highs, and this one's the rejection of all the lows, ones that were outside their average range. And then this is the one I'm really going to be interested in. But before I get there, I want to show you what's probably the most powerful tool, one of the most powerful tools. And to do that, in this particular instance, I'm going to go to Process, All Process, Screen Transfer Function. Under Screen Transfer Function, pretty cool things here. Let's focus right now on this radioactive button. I'm going to click on this picture to make sure it's active, and then I'm going to press the radioactive button. It may not look too impressive to you because you're looking on Google Plus and YouTube, and the image is somewhat degraded. But here are the pixels that were rejected because they were too bright, much brighter than the average pixel. That's interesting. These are the ones that were rejected. These were, no, not that one. The rejections are what I'm looking for. See the title here, rejection? I click on that to make it active, and there's not usually too much to see in the rejection ones. They're the ones that were cold pixels or just dimmer than they should have been. This is the one that I'm really interested in. This is the red version of the integration for the light filter, and I'm going to click on that, and poopity-doop, it performs a screen stretch and shows me what I got in my picture. And that's cool. Now, these rejection ones, they're important for later on when you learn what you're doing. You can look at your image and see if something screwy is going on. But they're not too important for our purposes right now, so we're going to skip them. Oh, yeah, we're going to skip them, he said, and then proceeded to start. This one we want to just put the screen transfer function on. And this one we're going to close, and this is another rejection, so we're going to close it, and then we're going to look at this fourth one here. Now we've got 4 pictures, monochrome pictures, one with my blue filter, one with my red filter, one with my luminance filter, and this one down here will be with my green filter. I want to look to see what kind of image I've got here. So I'm going to make an inspection image. To make an inspection image, I'm going to use a process, all processes, LRGB combination. I open up LRGB combination, and you'll notice that I've got L, R, G, and B checked. Now, here's one difference. If you're only doing an RGB, you uncheck the L. If you're doing a narrow band, you uncheck the L. And you put your reds, greens, and blues in here, or your hydrogen alpha, your green would be whatever you decide it's going to be if you're doing narrow band, but your S2 and your blue can be your O3, and you just fill those out. Now, the way you fill it out, first off, we're going to go back to LRGB because we are, in fact, doing an LRGB. We click on the end here, and it comes up thinking, no, you want the blue in there yet? You want the blue in there yet? And you go, no, I want the luminance. It says luminance, dummy. Okay, so you got luminance in there. And then this one, you're going to make it red. You said, no, I want I'm blue, I'm red. No, we want red to go in the red slot. And then, okay, let's see if blue still wants to be first in line, but it can't be. What green's got to be. And let's see if blue's going to, yeah, blue's hanging in there for us. So blue gets to be it. So now I've got my luminance assigned to L, my red to R, and you guys can figure out the rest of it. Okay, now I'm going to press this button right here. It's the Apply Global. It's a circle. I click it. We get some clanking and whirring and stuff like that over here. It adds it up, and here's my new image. Now, again, it's dark. It's still linear. It's still dark. So I can put a temporary screen stretch on it by hitting my radioactive button, and look at it. Isn't it green? it's way too green. Now, that's because the green plane over here is brighter than the reds and the blues and probably a little bit of the luminance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here on this. This links the RGB channels or unlinks them. What I'm doing now by unlinking them is I'm going to, before they were, when I applied the screen stretched, it pretty much stretched them all evenly. I don't want them stretched evenly. I want them stretched according to how bright they were in the first place. So, wow. See the difference it makes? Now it's kind of natural colors. Maybe not great colors yet, but they're kind of natural colors. So I got what I want there. I got a pretty decent image, but notice some things. Let me make this a little bit bigger by pulling on the corner a little bit, and it shows up a little better. See this turquoise over here? See this red down here? Okay, that's not supposed to be there. That's left over from the fact that when I dithered, my frame moved around, and then when everything was registered back to the same place, that left a little bit of blue and green out here, and it pulled the red away from up here. So I got to get rid of that stuff. Plus, you may not notice it, but my galaxy's a little off center. So how do I get it back on center? I'm going to call up in the processes, all processes. I'm going to dynamic, what am I calling? Cropping. Dynamic crop. Okay? Now, you'll notice this big square. I pushed this button down here to make sure everything was reset. For some reason, it hadn't been reset. But what I want to do is pull this in so at least that turquoise line is gone. And remember, I got to pull this up so at least that red line is gone. Now I'm going to grab it in the middle, and I'm going to move it around, and uh-oh, it's not big enough to put my... So I'm going to have to pull this in a little bit more. There are other ways I could do this. I could just grab one corner and pull down across and make a, okay? Now what I've done is I've created, and make a shadowed area over the part that I want. You'll notice that this little X here is now over the center of my galaxy, so my galaxy is actually centered. That means this side is a little bit too wide compared to this side when it cuts out. But that's okay. I don't care. So now let me see. I hate this kind of thing where I've got a star. You know, I got half a star, but not the whole star. People wonder, hey, what happened to the rest of that star? Well, I'd rather not have them ask that question. So I get that fixed up as best I can. Meanwhile, I make a problem over here. But for our purposes tonight, I've drawn a shaded area over the part that I want, and I can move the shaded area to do what I want it to do. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way so it doesn't bother me. See this little triangle right here? That's a magic triangle. It's called a new instance icon. And the new instant icon for right here is holding all the information, all the parameters for the rest of this process. I'm going to pull it and drop it off on each of the other images that I've got, the 4 images. And you'll notice as I do that, they all get cropped, so that they're all cropped the same way as they were before. Now, assuming I've done this right, I don't need this anymore, and so I'm going to get out of the dynamic crop. Yep, cancel that session. I'm going to get out of this picture because I don't need it. What I'm going to do is another LRGB combine. And since I've still got my LRGB combine up here, I can go ahead and do that. If I didn't, I'd go to Process, All Processes, LRGB combine, and assign luminance red, green, and blue again. And then I would tell it, execute this again. And so off it goes, and it makes me another, let's see, where are we? Another image. And as I look to that one, okay, as I look to this one, you'll notice that, hey, that turquoise line, the red line's gone, the galaxy's back in the middle, I've got rid of my stars that were half split and all that other cool stuff. So all that's cool. I'm going to get rid of this because I don't really need it for right now. I just wanted to show you what we were doing there. All right. Now, I'm reading my notes as to where I am. Removing gradients and dynamic. Okay. It is possible that we have slightly slight gradients across the picture here, that one side is a little bit brighter than the other, or I've still got some vignetting left over. So what I want to do is an automatic background extraction by going to Process, All Processes, uh, Automatic background extraction. What this is going to do is it's going to generate a model for what the background sky looks like and subtract that from the whole picture, leaving me with what the picture looks like. So I'm going to go and drop that off here. Oh, I forgot to do something. We have to change one of the defaults here. Remember I said we wanted to get by without changing any defaults. Well, the correction default is none. Most of the time, well, if you have artificially dark corners and brighter middle, you want to use division. It's called vignetting. If you've got vignetting problems, use division. For almost everything else, you use subtraction. All right, we don't have much of a gradient here at all, so we don't have to worry too much about what we were doing. But just to show you how it's done, oh, and then we drag this to each. Actually, I don't think that's the way I told you to do it in the tutorial. I think I told you to apply it in each case to each of the filters. Now, let's see what we got here. What we've got, we're going to use our radioactive button on this image, and you see the difference here? I do have a gradient. It's brighter in the middle. All right, how much? Not very much. The gray is 7.075. Yeah, there's not much, very much gradient on that image at all. So, but that's what it looks like. Anyway, we do that to all 4 of our images. And sometimes we do actually more harm than good doing this. So compare what you get after the extraction with what you had before the extraction. If it's better, keep it. If it's worse, don't. Use whichever pictures you've got for each color filter or for the luminance filter. Use whichever one is best. Now, that's how you do the automatic background extraction. And you should wind up with either the ABE version or the original version. Let's see, which is the, this is blue, this is blue, this is the background. So you can see that. And where this is the integration with the automatic background extraction. Which of those, hang on for a second, get rid of that. That's an ABE. I'm going to get rid of that. Which of these two look better? I happen to know with this particular set of data that they look almost the same. So I'm going to use the originals. You might be better off using the ABE version. So we need to clean up the desktop. We got too much junk here. What's this? This is an ABE version. I'm not going to use it. I close it with clicking this X up here. I'm left with a red, luminance, blue, and green. Sometimes I'm left with red ABE, sometimes blue ABE, sometimes the original. It depends on whether you had a gradient problem and whether automatic extraction helped or didn't help. But you'll see I have 4 different picture frames here. They've been changed since the original. We've gotten rid of their rejection filters. We've gotten rid of the rejection frames. We've cropped it. We've automatically background extracted it. So we're going to file and we're going to save each one of these, but we're going to use save as. This one is the blue, so I'm going to rename it to simply blue, and it's going to go back in the master file. Save that one. And take the defaults through the for an XISF file with 32 bits. Do the same thing here. File, save as. Excuse me. Green, save as. The reason we're doing this is if we won't in the future have to go all the way back to the beginning, do the automatic background extraction and stuff again. We can just come back here if we mess up something and we want to start right here. This is the red file, so it's named red now. And here is the luminance. Yeah. File, save as, luminance. By the way, it's taking me a whole lot longer to talk while I'm doing this than it would take you once you're familiar with this stuff to actually do it. I've cleaned up my desktop. I've got 4 images here. That's all I got. Plus, I've got some other processes here. I've still got this up here, and I've still got my LRGB combined. So next thing we want to do is we want to balance it. Are there any questions, Adam? Wake up, Adam.
There are not. I have to
Okay.
click on mute. It gets me every time. I'm talking to a muted microphone.
I know, I'm married too.
There is one question, Alex.
Yeah, what's that?
So Lance is asking, is there a log or history of all this as you do it?
Yes, there is. Down here under History Explorer, if I knew how to use it, I don't actually use it, but there it's creating a log of everything you've been doing. And
Alex, if you just select, if you go to the History Explorer and click on the where it says No View Selected and pull down and select one of those guys, it will show you the history of each of those images.
Right. Remember we did an ABE, but we didn't save it? Okay. So yeah, it's keeping a history of all that, and if I wanted to go back to initial state, I could click on this and it would go back to initial state. Right, guys? Okay. Next thing, remember that green was way too bright when we combined everything? That's because the green is way too bright compared to the others. What we want to do is we want to equalize the brightness of the 4 images. And there's a process that helps us do that called a linear fit. So we go again to Process, All Processes, Linear Fit, click on that. And it's very simple to use. It asks, what view do you want or what file do you want? And in fact, we want green most often. With experience, you might find that there's a better one to put that in. Tell it, yeah, okay. So now I'm going to drag my new instance. Well, I suppose I should do it the proper way. On blue, I execute, and it goes off, and it changes the brightness levels of each of them. La-di-da-di-da-di-da. And you notice the blue comes out a lot lighter than it had been. And it's, in fact, the information has been changed a little bit. The luminance, we do the same thing to. I had moved my cursor too far over. That's why the Process Explorer and now the View Explorer is opened up. I'm going to close them back down. Where are we here? This is the red one. It's active, so I tell it, here, go do your thing. So it's performing a linear fit, making sure that the general brightness level of each of the other 3 planes now match the green plane. And here's my green plane, and watch what happens when I try to do it to that. It says, you dummy, you can't do that. It says you can't apply a linear fit to the same image. So okay, smarty pants. Now, you'll notice that with pictures that used to be all about the same level of brightness are now no longer the same level of brightness. All right? But they will be if I fix the screen stretch, because it's keeping the old screen stretch and applying it to the new data. But if I go back and hit all 4 of them with a new screen stretch, boom, they're all pretty back again. Okay.
Alex,
Did I do red? Go ahead.
One little tip. If you select your green channel and then use the new instance icon from the screen transfer function to apply to all the other images,
yeah,
you'll actually get to see if the fit was correct.
Yeah, and I didn't do that because that's because I was going with the standard interface on each one. Remember, at several places I said there's some other things I could show you, but I'm not doing that so that I'm consistent. For instance, all these icons across here, they do a lot of the same stuff that I'm talking about. It's just consistently to tell you, well, our next process is going to be an LRGB combination. So I would say, go to your processes, all processes, LRGB combined. Nobody actually does that. So we call up LRGB combination again, because we've got those 4 image planes again. And here's our LRGB combination. They may or may not be populated depending on whether you've closed this process or anything, but check your luminance, red, green, and blue are in their proper boxes. And apply globally again. And here it's working over here. You can see on the process console. Now we've got an LRGB combined picture. And you notice the last time we LRGB combined, whether we used that link or didn't use that link, I mean, now they're very much closer. Before it was really different green. Now they're very much closer. Okay, now see how that works? All right. We can actually close down each of these images. I'm not going to close them all the way, but we'll go close them down a ways, minimize them, and put them up in the corner. We don't much need them anymore, so we can put them up there. 2, 3. And this is the image we're working on from now on. Now, if I'm not mistaken, yes, I think so. If you are using a one-shot color camera, and remember I said I wouldn't have a lot of these. If you are doing this, then you do that. But if you have been using a one-shot color camera, from this point on, once you've combined all your images and cleaned them up a little bit, you're cool. I mean, from here on out, you can do the same things we're doing because we do have a full color image here, even though it looks a little grayish. Okay, where am I? LRGB combo. We're going to clean up the data some. We may need to do another automatic background extraction because sometimes weird things happen. Let's just do it just to see what it's like. Automatic background extraction. We're here. Oh, I'm sorry. And do a subtraction again. Who's active? That one. And we'll tell it to execute. It goes and executes like it did before. Subtracts the background model. Here's our new image. I don't know how it looks really compared. Hang on for a second. Let's look at our background image. And that's a very smooth gradation. And that's what you're looking for when you're doing a background extraction. A smooth gradation from one color one to the next. If you get it splotchy, you probably got a bad extraction and probably won't be using that automatic background extraction. Okay, one of these two is better. I can't tell. For our purposes, I'm just going to go with this image right here. This is the one we originally combined. Background neutralization. If we click on any one location here, we may find out that if you take a look at the bottom numbers down here as I click up here, we can look to see 91, 93, 91. Pretty darn close. So we're not going to get much out of this, but you may have a background that's just a wrong color back there. So there's a process for that called background neutralization, I believe, right? Where are we going? Yeah, background neutralization. So we go down to background neutralization, pick it up. Our target image is the background reference image. Well, what's the background? This dark stuff in the background is our background reference image. And we can use just the whole image as the background. But particularly if you have nebulosity or something, you're going to want to create a preview, and it's something you need to learn anyway. So find an area that is largely background, doesn't have a lot of stars in it. Do an Alt-N. Hold the Alt key, press the N down once, let it go, and I've created a preview. Not a very good preview, it's kind of small, but it'll work. Over here I tell it that I want to use Preview 1. That is a preview of the background sky. This tells the program what the background sky looks like. All right, and then I tell it to go ahead and apply that. And what it does is it goes through and it neutralizes. Now, we didn't have much difference in the first place. Now it's 97, 98, 97 on that sample. And down here it's 87, 93, 88. Well, that doesn't look good. But at any rate, my point is that generally speaking, my background will all be fairly neutral, grayish color. you can see that I'm not getting much color change anymore when I do this. A little bit, not nearly as much as I did the first time we tried it. But how do I know that the color that I've got is the color I'm supposed to have? Well, in order to figure that out, we've got to I'm going to cancel this, and we won't be combining. Yeah, go ahead.
One question's coming in from Lance. So the result of the background extraction frame that comes up is showing you the result of what is extracted?
It's showing you what it thinks the background sky looks like, and then it extracts it, so yes.
Yeah.
Right. And those of you who know this, David and Adam and everybody, I mean, you can verify that, I think, or correct me.
Yeah, that's basically it. And you went into earlier the difference between dividing and subtracting.
Yes, and, dividing you use for vignetting, and subtracting for moon glowing weird and light pollution and stuff like that.
Yep. So that background, in a sense, I don't know, the fact that you're performing the math on it, the background kind of gives you an idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Always look at your backgrounds just to see. You want them to be smooth like that one I showed you. Large areas of change, because gradients are large areas of change. Okay? If you've got lots of small areas of change, something weird's happening. You've picked the wrong background sky or something. Okay? So you didn't get a good extraction.
Yep. Or if you see like the residuals of your galaxy or your nebula that you're imaging, you know something's wrong. You have to be more delicate. Okay.
How do we know that the colors we've gotten are the right colors? Well, PixInsight considers any galaxy white because it's a collection of all colors, therefore it's white. It'll analyze all the lighter parts of a picture and consider that light too. But at any rate, let me call out the process. All processes, color calibration, right? Yeah, color calibration. And in this case, the reference image is going to be the target image. Well, yeah, the target image. Background, we're going to use that same background reference image that we used before, that we made last time. It's still there. You can see it hanging around. It looks like, okay, we're using Preview 1. For those of you who want to see what Preview 1 looks like, it looks like this. I shouldn't have had that star in there, but the program knows to get rid of it. So that's what Program 1 looks for. We'll go back to Image 24 by clicking on that tab. And so far, I believe I've set everything that needs to be set here. Yeah, I've made it Preview 1, my image, and then I apply it. And it makes some changes in the color balance, and you see it turned a little pinker there. Let me redo this, and I'm going to come over here. See this reset button? This reset button says get rid of all screen stretching. This one says restretch it, and you can see what I got. Notice the difference between here and here and here. This is my actual data. It's unstretched. This is my data with an artificial screen stretch on it. And it's decided what color everything should be, and there it is. It's time to save, close, and clean up. We're pretty clean, so not much to do there. I want to show you something. Let's say that we didn't like something that happened. See this arrow up here? That undoes it. Now, there wasn't much done there, so that you don't see much. But there you see a little bit of slight change. That's the color calibration coming back in. Now these are good for correcting a mistake you made. You say, oh, that background extraction was poopy, I got to get rid of it, or something like that. Color calibration, the neutralization didn't work right. You can undo it. Or it's good for experimenting. Try something and undo it. Try something and undo it. And you can go back and forth comparing two versions of something. Now, the reason I can do this and have it change is because I'm non-linear. Oh, I didn't put the charts in here to outline to explain what linear or non-linear is. So if you want to, you can look at the tutorial and it'll explain the difference between those two terms. But next we need to stretch the data. And we're going to stretch the data the lazy man's way. Under Process, all processes, histogram transformation, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, histogram transformation. This says that for every unit of input, I've got an equal unit of output. That's why that line is straight. In fact, we're going to want sometime to change that so that it looks more like that. This is a stretch data, where stuff that's kind of dark is stretched a whole lot more than stuff that's kind of light. Of course, you can't see, I'm going to reset this. You can't see anything up here, but I can make a preview of it. This is a real-time preview by pressing this little blue circle. I can make a preview of it. It's right here. And now I can change it. Oh, too bright. That's because I've got this sucker on up here too. So I'm going to get rid of that. And you can see that I can do my own stretching and bring it up the way I want it to. Well, just where do you set this sucker? What do you want that curve to look like? You've got a friend. This little new instance icon right here on the screen transfer function, well, assuming you've done a screen transfer function on it, it's holding all the information in the screen transfer function. And I'm going to bring it down here and I'm going to set it right there. And look what I got. So, look what it did to my real-time preview over here. It's applying the screen transfer function that's up here to my real-time preview. And so it's doing it double. I'm going to make that real by clicking the execute button. And you'll notice that down below, this image down here, which is my real image, is changed into all white. Well, don't worry about it. You've got double screen transfers on it, or you got double transfers on it. You've got this one that you've just applied, plus you've got this artificial one. Get rid of the artificial one. You don't need the preview anymore. Get rid of that. So when you find out, what you got here is that, remember that experiment we did a little earlier where we stretched it, and then we unstretched it, and we stretched it, and we unstretched it? Remember, when it was stretched, it would be looking like that, but when we unstretched it, it looked like black. Well, it's not doing that anymore. That's because our data is all stretched. Now, this doesn't give you the best histogram transformation in the world, but it certainly gives you the easiest one. Well, let's say that you want to make this even better. There are ways to do it better. If you are familiar with the curves process, there is a curves process in all processes, curves. There's a curves process in PixInsight. Curves transformation, it's called. Same kind of line as we had before, and I can call up a real-time preview. Let's say that I want to make the background sky a little bit darker. I can pull right down in here, and I can pull down a little bit. Notice how the background sky is getting darker. But I want to keep the bright parts a little bit brighter, so I can go like that, ever so slightly. And of course, I can also work with just the reds if I want more red. And so forth. So you see all that? Get it nice and pretty. And then what do? I apply it to the real picture by pressing the apply button. And it goes what was here and puts it over here. Why don't these two match? Because this one here is showing this one plus this new screen transfer function. I'm going to click it back to RGBK. I'm going to reset it. And you'll notice that this and this now pretty much match. I don't need my real-time preview, but that's how a curve session works in PixInsight. It's a little bit dull, though. I need more color. Yeah, I'm an amateur astronomer imager. I need more color. I need more saturation. So I'm going to go to Processes, All Processes, and Saturation. Saturation. What's it called, guys?
Color saturation.
Color saturation. Okay, I knew that. See there, it's color saturation. Okay, back up to color saturation. There we go. Look at this yellow line across here. This is normal, right in the middle of everything. I'm going to make a preview. Here's my preview. And then I'm going to pull everything up. I grabbed one corner, one side, and I pulled it up. And look what I got. Compare that, the new version, with what I had before. Now, if I want to do more, I can mess with these numbers down here, and I can actually increase the amount of saturation I want to put in there. And doesn't every imager want to increase the amount of saturation they're putting in there? Actually, that's a little bit much. The whole thing was a little bit much. Let me get back down here. Okay, and then I'm going to execute it by applying by hitting the square apply button, and I should get a much more colorful image. There we go. That's an image. By the way, from about the time we combined it and then stretched it, even before we did the curves, we probably had an image that was as good as the average beginning astronomer, astroimager can develop through Deep Sky Stacker and Photoshop combination, just with that stuff. And while it took me an hour to get there, most of that was because I was telling stupid jokes and talking a lot. When you are familiar with this stuff, you can actually get to that stage in about 10 minutes of actual work time. The computer may take a little bit longer to do. For a long time before I decided, are there any questions at this point?
I haven't seen any new ones.
You don't see any? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Save, close, clean up time. So you cleaned up there. We probably will never use the screen transfer function again, so we'll get rid of that. Curve, saturation. I didn't know whether we should put in noise reduction. The noise reduction I used in the earlier one, true noise reduction, I could give you specific defaults and it would work pretty good. So if you want to see that, go back to the one-shot color version of this, and you can see how to use true noise reduction to clean up any noise. My noise, I'm going to see these buttons down here. This gives me different sizes of image, and I'm going to zoom into 1:1, and you can see when I zoom into 1:1 that this image does have some noise, and we don't like noise because we're astroimagers and we don't like that. So I'm going to go back to a size that we can all enjoy here as soon as I quit going too far over to the History Explorer. Okay, on this size here, I'm going to call a script, I'm going to call a process called TGV denoise. There it is. All right. And I'm going to use the CIE lab mode under chrominance. Now, it takes a long time to process this. It's very processor intensive. So rather than do the whole thing, I want to create a little small picture. So we go back to create a preview, Alt-N, and we create a preview. Now notice this time the preview is different. It's got a little bit of the nebulosity, it's got some of the background sky, all the different types I could possibly want. And I'm going to pull it out, and other people do it in different ways, but I like making several of these copies because I'm going to run this experiment several times, and there, I've got several of these around now. I'll get them all cleaned up out of the way. I was saying that I wasn't going to include noise reduction because there's some experiment involved, and it doesn't follow my rules that we have to follow along with things that could be easily explained. This will require some work. First thing I want to do is bump this to about 250. Okay, then my iterations. That means I want you to do it over and over and over and over and over again for about 250 times. Okay, and the first thing that I'm going to do then is just making sure that this preview is active. I'm going to apply it, and watch what it does to the image. See how long just this little square is taking. Now, compare that with my other preview here. You may not be able to see it very well. It doesn't look like it did very much. That's because edge protection. Edge protection is the single most critical factor on all of this. Edge protection is just too much. So I'm going to lower that. No, I'm going to increase it by going to lower it by taking it to a smaller exponent. It's backwards. Okay, now this one's the first try. This is my second try. I'm just going to drag the new action icon over to it and rework it, and it goes through and does it again. When I say it takes experimentation, I want you to go look at Harry's Astro Shed tutorial on this. Compare my original, which is this one here. Let's put this one over. No, let's put it over here because it's going to be my third try. Here's my original. Here's my first pass with the default settings. Here's my second pass. Notice how much less noise there is, and look at everything still looks pretty good. And here's one that I haven't tried yet. I'm going to go one more and see what happens. Oh, somebody's ringing me on my phone. So I'm going to go one more, and it's going to perform it again. Any questions popping up?
I do not see any new questions.
Okay, and I don't see much more improvement on that. There might be some, and you may want to fuss this, and you can certainly get better at it, but compare the level of noises as much as you can. Sorry, guys, I know it's hard to do when you're off on Google+. This one's got a lot less noise, doesn't it? This one's got a little bit. This one's got a lot less. Let's go over to image 24 again. Go to the original image, and remember the new instance icon here? It's got everything in it. Let's just drag it up and plop. Look how long it takes to do the whole thing. Da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da. Now's a good time to answer any questions. Anybody else have any contributions they can make to this while we're doing noise reduction?
Well, I was going to say, now that we have some time, are you, I might have missed this, are you only working on the chrominance? I don't want to confuse people out there, but are you only working on the chrominance in TGBD noise?
I am.
Okay.
As you guys know, and now the rest of the world's about to know, I'm very uncomfortable using this tool because I had to do a lot of experiments to get it to work. I think I got it to the point where it's useful at this level. I think any one of you guys could do a whole hour on, any one of you guys who really knows what you're doing could do a whole hour on noise reduction methods, how to do all this stuff better than I can do just in this demonstration. Just because I think you probably know it better than I do.
Well, one of the things I was going to say is TGBD noise is actually really good at chrominance noise reduction or just color noise reduction, and it's a lot less confusing when you're only trying to do it on chrominance data.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know exactly what Alex is saying about lightness. You guys will figure it out if you start experimenting with it because things get ugly quick.
And this is going to be going for a while. And let me just tell you that when you look at Harry's AstroShed tutorial, and the link to it is in the original tutorial. It's on my website. Excuse me. You will find that the most important thing you get out of what Harry says is his willingness to experiment. He's a very positive person, and he tells you, hey, you got to try this. Oops, too much. Got to back it off. Oops, let's go try this a little bit. You can move some of those other sliders. Like I said, I've been told that edge protection is the single most critical factor in all of this. So, you know, go through that and do what you need to do there. Mess with that more, and then you can fine-tune it with the other sliders.
Yeah, Eric just made a great point. First of all, when you're noise reduction is one of those things that we all kind of go crazy about because we really are interested in it. And David did a great presentation. It's an entire hour-long presentation, or maybe longer, on noise reduction. And we probably could have 5 more sessions on noise reduction and not cover it all because there's so many ways to do it. But that's a great place to look if you want to go a little bit beyond this tutorial. My own, since I see we're at 9%.
Yeah, we're up to 11 on the third channel.
Yeah, there you go. I look at PixInsight as like a box of tools, and you learn how to use one tool at a time. You learn how to use your hammer, you learn how to use your screwdriver, you learn how to use your drill, and then all of a sudden you're able to build a wall. Same thing with an astro image. You just have to learn a little at a time. This will give you just kind of a great head start where you don't really have to learn the tools before you can actually get some results out of it.
And I hope that in using the tools with somebody holding your hands, pointing out, you know, when I say apply button, I mean this square blue thing. You know what I mean? When you learn the language of PixInsight, and having learned the language of PixInsight and the styles and the convention, when you open a new process that you've never seen before, it's not funny looking to you anymore. You know where it's going to go. You know which buttons to kind of push and how to get into things and how not to get into things. What did I do? I just broke my computer. It turned white. It'll probably come back. We're going to go through saving the originals and then saving for the web in a minute. And look, whether this is good noise reduction or not, it's going to be what we use for the next two parts of this. And we should be finished in about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how long this whole percentage goes here. 96, 97, 90. You see why we did it with the little preview? And by the way, any of these things that we've been doing, you can do with the little preview. Remember the experiment buttons up here? Back and forth. Or to blow it up and do it, back and forth. Yeah, I did okay, didn't I, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, it's still an ugly galaxy all red like that. Oh yeah. What do we need for these things anymore? Okay, we've got this. This is the test image. These 4 previews here, we'll never need them again. These are all clones. To clone something, all you got to do is drag it off the drag the tab, like to clone preview 1. Boom, we've got a copy of preview 1 right like that. So I'm going to close these because we're never need it again. I'm going to delete preview 1. I don't need preview 2 for anything. Image 24. Okay, let me save image 24 because it's important to us. No, sorry. That's what we're going to be doing for the last 3 minutes. Each of these are up here. Now, remember earlier we saved them as blue, luminance, green, and red, but they weren't finished processing yet. So what we want to do is we want to de-iconize the image. We can double-click on it, and then we want to File, Save As, and we want to give it a new name, Blue Stretch. Oh, it was never stretched. Blue, it was cleaned up. And linear fit, and we save it with its options. Now we're doing that. We're going to do that for all 4 of them, except that in the interest of time, we're not actually going to do them. That way, if you only want to go back to that part and do your LRGB combine again, you don't have to go back to earlier parts. You can just call up those 4 files and do the oh, yeah, and this one, you disappeared too. Goodbye. All right, now we've got this beautiful image. It looks nice. Bring it down to a size we can look at it. And we're going to go File, Save As. And this is image 24, it's been calling itself. This is our LRGB combo. We might want to put the word finished on there. It gives us choices for an XISF and a 32-bit. We take that. And now we're going to File, Save As again. This time we're going to change this to TIFF because we might want to take it over to Photoshop or do something else to it or send it off to a friend in a TIFF. And so we're going to tell it to save, and it's going to say, hey, you silly, we invented a whole new system for saving called XISF to use a whole lot more of your hard drive, and you're not taking advantage of it. Do you really want to do that? Oh, no, that's not what it's asking. That's just asking to change the extension to TIFF. This is this here, okay. We want to go with 16-bit unsigned integer. Tell it okay. and off it goes and does that. And now we might have friends that want to see it up on cloudy nights, and you should always post on cloudy nights so people can pixel peep your work. And so you go over to process. It's too big as it is to save over there, but we can resample it. Resample, not rescale, I don't know. Okay, and I'm going to move this, I'm sorry, over here to about 25% of its original size. And since preserve aspect ratio, meaning its length to width, is there, it's going to go from about 25% of what it used to be, and I'm going to tell it to, yeah, go do that. It becomes a lot smaller, and now I'm going to file, save as a JPEG. And now it's going to give me, yeah, it's still LRGB combo, but I've been saving it under different formats. It's now a JPEG, so it's coming up as 3 different files. And this tells me to correct the extension. Now this is the scold message that it doesn't support that kind of data. You've got this beautiful image and you're just saving it as a stupid little JPEG. You really want to do something stupid like that? And you say, yep. And then you can save it. 80% is probably good enough for posting on most of us. And it doesn't, you know, you're really throwing away a lot of data, it says. Yeah, I know what a JPEG is. Duh. Now, one thing you really should not do is save this file back as an XIF file with the same name. Don't just, because if you do, you've written over all the work that you've just done. So there we go. That concludes my presentation. You know now how to send this out to your buddies, and so it'll show up on cloudy nights and we can see it and pixel peep it. And they're the cool things. Anybody got any questions?
I don't see any more questions. I do see a bunch of people in the room. So you guys have a couple minutes now to ask your questions if you do have any out there. Again, a great presentation by Alex. PixInsight doesn't have to be as confusing as we make it out to be. Then again, it doesn't have to be as confusing as they made it to be, but that's another story. I guess learning where to drag those triangles to and all that, that's one of the hardest things.
Yeah, certainly.
So I don't see any other questions coming in. Does anyone inside the room have any comments or questions?
I would like to reiterate one more time. This is Alex again. I promised you that what I would be doing is giving you an easy way to do a PixInsight picture, and proceeded to spend an hour and something talking about that and writing 30-some pages about it. And you can ask, well, how could it be that darn easy if it takes you that long to explain it? Well, my point is that I was really explaining a lot of details, and you don't usually talk about these things when you're actually pushing the buttons. And because of that, it doesn't take nearly as long to do that when you're doing it as it does to talk about it. Okay?
Yep. And one of the things Alex did well that I always make a mistake of is I don't think you used any acronyms. Automatic background extraction is ABE if you ask me, and dynamic background extraction is DBE if you ask me. I guess TGV denoise is an acronym in its own sense, but who knows what TGV stands for?
Total generalized.
Total generalized, right?
It stands for Très Grande Vitesse. It's a very fast train in France.
Yeah. All right, guys. We are off next week. I'm not sure what's happening the following week. There's a few potential sessions, but we've got some good stuff coming up towards the end of the month. And well, stay tuned.
Adam, can I interrupt just one more time, because I like to say it every time? We're nothing special here. I mean, if you have seen me process pictures now. I'm not that good at it, and I think that I can offer something to a lot of people. And you don't worry about the fact that you may not be, that there are other people that are really good at this stuff. There is a lot. You have a lot to offer. John Madden, I mean, I wouldn't want him blocking for me, but I wouldn't at all mind him telling me a few things about how I play football. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't want him out there in that offensive line, not John Madden. Anyway, so we need presenters. If you have a technique, if you want to show off your observatory and what you did to make it really cool, if you want to, if you've got a friend who likes to talk about astroimaging, hook us up, man. Hook us up. Thanks, Adam.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for that. All right, well, enjoy the Super Bowl next week, and you'll get notification. Remember what I told you. You follow us, you're going to get notifications. You want to see the new videos? Subscribe on YouTube. You have a few different options for that. Or just go to our website, and then you'll see it all there. But thank you guys for coming. Have a good one.